Kia ora everybody, I hope you're all well. I wanted to do this YouTube video on some research that I did around a set of World War One British war medals, which I inherited in the early 90s. The research has taken me a while, and I'll go into the various bits and pieces that I did. But yeah, I got these set of medals when my nan died back in the 90s. I didn't know the person involved. He's not a family member. All I knew was from word of mouth that he was from Haverhill, which is in Suffolk, the UK. But he had no close family members who obviously inherited medals that come to me. So I set about trying to get some information. The search has taken a while, and this YouTube vid is basically about that research. So there's probably better ways of doing research, and I know there's books out there about the best way of achieving it. And my sort of convoluted method and results by no means offer the best way or the best practice way of doing it. But I thought I'd share with you what I'd found anyway, which is quite a bit, but not as much as there can be. So I'll start with the basics. The medal recipient's name was William Watt Tyler. Number was 9450, and he was in the 1st Battalion of the Bedfordshire Regiment. So you can see his 4 medals, or 3 medals, and a death plaque up there. He's got the 1914 star without the rosette, or without the bar, War Medal and Victory Medal, and he's also got the death plaque. So with this as a starting point, I began to do some general investigations. So back when I got these medals, back in the early 90s, obviously the internet wasn't really a thing. It is now, and believe me, it's a lot easier to do any research. But really the first bit of research I did was to write to a researcher in London to do some basic investigations. And this basic investigations got me a couple of things. First of all, it got me the Commonwealth War Graves note for the casualty. So as you can see, it says the soldier's name, his unit, when he died, and the location where he's buried, if known or commemorated. For William, it was Dyke Bush Military Ceremony. It also got me the medal index card, which you can see. He has an entry for 1914 Star, Victory and War Medal, and it also gives his entry into theatre, which was the 16th of the 8th, 1914. Considering the war only started on the 28th of July, not even a month before, that's a pretty quick deployment. It also states that he died of wounds, DOA. So it's quite a bit of information you can pick up from there. This information can also be picked up now if you just go to the Commonwealth War Graves Commission site. Fantastic site. Put in the soldier's name and any other details you know. And as you can see, you get a kind of certificate that you can just see ahead of you, giving you the details of where he's buried and when he died. The researcher I employed also dug out the War Graves diaries for the day that William died, and 8th for the 6th 15, it says, quarter at railway cutting, shell with howitzers, casualties 2 killed and 21 wounded. So going from the details I found, William would have been one of the 21 wounded, and later on you can see at the Dyke Bush Cemetery some of the others who were killed at the same time are also buried there. So where was William when he died? He was in the Ypres salient, or Wipers salient, which you can see on the map there in Belgium. And he was just at Hill 60, which is to the south of Ypres. But we get back into the details of the battle and where he died later on. First of all, who was Private Tyler or William? Well, first of all, he was born in Haverhill, which is the same place as me, and that's where he grew up. His mum and dad lived in the same house, and he had siblings, a couple of sisters. William joined the army in 1909 when he was 16, choosing to join as a bandsman in the Bedfordshire Regiment. Now, on investigations, which again I'll go into later, it seems that his dad, Wat Tyler, was actually a bandmaster for some 40 or 50 years in Haverhill, so a bit of a connection there we've only just found out about. But yeah, so William joined up the regular forces when he was 16, joining as a bandsman or private in the Bedfordshire Regiment. One of the bandsman's jobs in war was a stretcher bearer, and that's how William served when he was in Ypres. So where was William from? Haverhill's a small rural town in Suffolk, in South Suffolk, near about 20 miles from Cambridge, and it's sort of classic. It's got a sort of flint church there, quite quiet, very quiet until the 50s when a lot of Londoners came down to join. And one of the first places I looked at was the cemetery, where there's a largish war memorial, which you can see there, and as you approach it, you can see William's name inscribed on the war memorial. I happen to be going back, taking this photo on the 11th of November, so you can see all the poppies there as they are. So, looking in local places was a good place to start the research, and I did write to some places to get some information as well, but it's always good to see something physical like that. However, at the start of the research, really basically I'd moved to New Zealand, and so it was quite limited, again, before the internet came in. So what I did do was I went on eBay and I tried to get some picture evidence of the Bedfordshire Regiment band rather. Which I did. So I got a number of postcards and I just sort of shotgun randomly brought them. Some are quite useful. For example, this one is the Bedfordshire Band in Aldershot, and as is the next one. And this was the fella William would probably have been in there, as he was posted to Aldershot when the regiment were there, and the chances are he's in the photo. And just following some other shots, mainly during the war, of the Bedfordshire Band, 1st Battalion, with their instruments. I don't know if William Tyler is in any of them. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. Obviously, he died earlier in the war, so, chances are kind of against it. But it was kind of all the research I could do outside of writing to that researcher is fairly limited. However, sometimes just waiting can be useful. The book came out, I think it's early 2000s. I brought a copy of the book. And it's about the 1st Bedfordshire Regiment. What a stroke of luck, eh? And it's also a very good website about it as well. And there's lots of information. It's by Stephen Fuller, recommended reading if you're doing research around the 1st Bedfords. And it's got lots of details about what the unit was doing, where they were doing, and so on. So again, it's worth looking. People have got an interest in specific subjects, and if you're lucky, you'll find something that marries up with yours. So I brought the book. It's good. It goes on to the rest of the war, but I was only basically interested up to the point where William died, which is the 8th of June. And I'll read you about that exit later. But also, I had a look at a census, so 1911 census, which was useful, and also an earlier one as well. So these can be good information gathering stuff. And if I also went on and found the birth certificate for William, which got lots of information, and also the death certificate, which was kind of minimal, but worth getting just as something to do. I went back to the UK early 2000s and had a bit of a time to research then. So I went to Bury St Edmunds, which is a town a couple of miles away from Haverhill, and used the opportunity to search in the archives of the local papers at the library. So you can do this online now, something that I did a couple of days ago when I found the article I've got on screen now, and a couple of others basically related to the same altogether. And yeah, the online thing's fantastic. I mean, rather than having to go to the library and then search for all that microfile, you just have to put in a few keywords. But as you can see, this is absolute gold. The information there, I was very excited when I found it. It's got the details where he lived, his parents, when he joined, and then it's got a letter from Corporal Bourne, who was his section commander. And he writes to his parents on the 12th of June. I feel it's my duty to take the liberty of writing to you to let you know about your son who died from wounds. On the morning of the 8th of, can't read that one, he was staying in a bomb-proof shelter about 10 yards from the dressing station. All had been unusually quiet when suddenly a large shell struck the corner of his place, and he was unfortunately hit in several places, his armours being the worst, but no bones were broken. Soon dressed his wounds, and when he left for the field ambulance, he hadn't recovered from shock, which I understand he died shortly afterwards. Changing the subject a little, I didn't know your son previous to his becoming a stretcher bearer, but I soon learned what a conscientious and hard-working chap he was, always ready to give me a helping hand whenever I should require it. He was very popular amongst our stretcher bearer comrades, and he was sure to be gradually missed by all. One thing I'm sure of, and that is he may have passed peacefully away. So, yeah, I mean, shock. There weren't any blood replacement products available in the First World War, so relatively common to die that. But yes, so that was an absolutely gold of a find. William was then casevaced, or casually evacuated to the nearest field ambulance, which was number 14 field ambulance, where, as he said, he unfortunately died. This is why his body was recovered, as so many weren't, and where he's buried at Dykebush, which was where the dead were buried from the field ambulance. Just on screen now is basically the same article I found on an online search from the Bury Free Press on June the 19th, which again just is what's said in the Echo one from a few days earlier. I was lucky enough to visit Ypres a couple of years ago, sort of mid-2015-ish, and had a tour around Ypres. This is Menin Gate. I have a service every night, and after a night I went to Hill 60, which is where William died. So a little bit of history. The Bedfordshire Regiment, specifically the 1st Battalion, were involved in most of the battles throughout the war on the Western Front, including the Battle of the Mons, which was the first major action of the First World War, which was around Ypres, and they received heavy casualties. Hill 60 was just south of Ypres, and the 1st Battalion were moved there in May. This is just in time for the Germans' gas attack there, and the British took Hill 60, and then the Germans, with the use of some mines and smaller mines, and then the Germans retook it using a gas attack. So the Bedfordshire lost lots of soldiers in those attacks, and that was sort of May. By June, the front had settled a little bit, but obviously there's still active fighting going on. As Stephen Fuller put it in his book, by the end of May, the brigades within the 5th Division had been reorganised back into their formal structures, and between the 1st and 13th, the Bedfords were back in the front line at the base of Hill 60, the southern flank of the 15th Brigade sector. And this is where William received his fatal wound. So Dykebush Cemetery is located just a couple of miles away from Hill 60. Easy to find. I took a tour. I just took a taxi that day. We were staying in Ypres, and it was about 10 minutes away from Ypres town centre, and beautifully set out. I've got some photos coming up of it. Everything's neat, sort of, as is the standard of the Commonwealth graves across the world, and I could easily find William's grave. Going back to the original inquiry I made, it gives the exact location of his grave, which is Row E, Grave 15 of Dykebush New Military Ceremony, and it's just the map of this of the cemetery coming up now. As you can see, all set out nice. There's the Dykebush, there's the plaque at the cemetery, This is the picture of the graves. It's just within a residential area. Again, very well maintained. And here we have William's gravestone, which gives his number, rank, name, and date of death. Also, there is Henry James Wright and S.H. Rush, also the Bedfordshire Regiment, and they all died on the same day. Well, I went to Hill 60 and had a look, and they've left locals have left it as it is, the authorities, and you can still see it's marked with the shell fire from all the fighting over the years. This crater is from Caterpillar mine, which was exploded in 1917, as opposed to the ones I did before. Another publication that is done for every unit of the British Army during World War I was soldiers that died in the Great War, 1914 to 19. It lists each different regiment. I've got the Bedfordshire Regiment 1 there, and as you can see, it's got the mnemonics, and then William's name is coming up on the appropriate page. But this is the reprint done in 1989. I think they were originally done in the 1920s, but again, it's a useful source of information. Also found on the internet was the fact that the parents of the deceased soldier paid for the inscription if they wanted something different from the very basic one, and the documents in front of you give that information about his family and what they purchased. Another good local site that both consolidated and confirmed some information about William was the Suffolk Family History Society. Had put together some bits and pieces about World War I casualties, which was great. And I also found via the Silver Band Society in Haverhill some details and pictures of what Tyler, who was William's dad. Basically, his mum died when she was 80, and his dad died when he was 83 in 1953, which was good to find out. And here we have William's medals. I've done them up in a frame. Found a picture I thought he may be in, and also that article I found. So I hope this was interesting and of use. I've managed to get some details from just the medals and the name that I had at the beginning of the search. It's taken a while, 30 years, but these things do take time, and it's certainly worthwhile. Coming to the UK next month, or in June actually, so I'm going to have a look out at the local history society to see if I can find any more information. So thank you for listening. I hope this was useful. The information has certainly helped me. It's taken a while, but I suppose the only thing I'm really looking for to make it complete is a picture of William. Again, hopefully I can find out when I go back to the UK in a couple of weeks' time. Okay, well, thank you for listening to the end. Catch you later.